Hey, if you are a self-taught designer or looking to brush up your UX fundamentals, this video is for you. In this video, I will be sharing 5 laws that I learned in my design college, and they will definitely help you in your design journey as well. So let's check them out. So let me ask you this. Have you ever played one of those memory games where you had to flip a card and pair them out? I'm sure it must have taken several attempts to get it right. Do you know why that happens? In 1957, an American psychologist called Mr. Miller wrote an article about the magical number 7, that a working memory can only hold between 5 to 9 items at any point of time. Now you must be wondering that my designs will not always have 5 to 9 items, right? What does one do in such a case? Well, chunks. You have to chunk the information. When you categorize an information, it becomes easier to remember. So always organize your elements in less than 9 chunks, preferably 5. This law plays a big foundation in the UX industry today. Whenever you have to remember difficult numbers or data like your account number, like a phone number, you always use chunks. The smaller the chunk, the easier to remember this information. Now, chunking or categorizing information not only helps you in remembering things, but also making decisions easy. What do I mean by that? Remember the last time you visited Netflix and tried to find a movie to watch? Sometimes it can take more time than you anticipate because there are so many options to choose from, and that makes your decision making more difficult. Now you might think giving options is a good idea, right? No. If you give too many options, it overwhelms the user and they might feel overwhelmed or stressed out and just drop off. Hick's law clearly states the more the number of options or choices you give to the user, the more time they will spend in making those choices. Now, have you observed apps like Zomato or Swiggy? They actually show your recently ordered items. Can you tell me why? Well, that's because they don't want you to spend too much time. They want you to quickly select an option and directly go to the checkout journey. So by reducing your decision time, they're actually increasing their business. Now, you might have seen that most of the e-commerce apps today actually use categorizing information or chunking information to reduce your decision time, because more the number of options, more decision time, and hence increasing the chances of dropping off from the app. So the pro tip here is break up the long process into small chunks, categories, or even steps. And sometimes you can even leverage progressive disclosure. You can even disclose these steps one by one, hence reducing the decision time. It's always a good idea to look at other platforms while designing your user experience. Do you know why? I will disclose that in the next law. The third law is Jacob's law. Now, your users are naturally spending more time on other platforms and applications. So they have developed this understanding of how things work in different apps and websites. For instance, if there is a search bar icon, they have a general perception or understanding of what this icon will do. They naturally know when they click on it, they will be able to find something. They will be able to search something through it. Imagine if you create an application and you think, hey, let me design something out of the box, and your user clicks on the search bar and it has a functionality of a drop down. How weird would that be? So that is where this law comes into play. It makes you understand that your users have developed a mental model over time. They have this basic sense of understanding where they expect something to work in a certain manner because they have seen this repetitively over time. If you go ahead and make these changes, you might mess up with their brain and they might feel freaked out and just leave your application. Now that's not something we want, right? But now you must be wondering, so am I just supposed to copy the design of another application? Then where is my creativity going? Where is my original design going? You need to understand that there is a scope of creativity as well. Like most of the brands, you can really play along the visual language or the branding language of your particular app or website. Are you making your user go insane by learning new mental models every time they come on their website? No, it's not a good idea. Leverage what the industry already uses. For instance, if you're designing an e-commerce website, your users will expect to have a cart option on the top right navigation section. Now you might go ahead and say, hey, instead of making it a card, I will call it a bag or I will call it a wallet based on whatever your industry or domain is. That is something you can definitely explore with. But if you go ahead and hide that card button under a user profile option or under my settings, they might spend so much time just figuring out where to find this option. And I'm sure this will not be a good experience at all. Which reminds me, I need to tell you about Fitts law. So this law can be a little tricky and tough to understand because it has some formulas and all of that. But let's make it easy and fun. What say? Now to simplify it, let's break it down into two parts. First, size. Okay, tell me which one would you find more easier to use? There is a small button that you have to click on versus there is a big button that you can click on. Which one is more easier for you to use? The one which is big in size, right? So very simply put, if you use a big target area, it becomes very easy for your users to actually click on it. Now the second part of the law is proximity or distance. Imagine you're clicking on a button on top right section of your phone and that leads to a pop-up on the bottom of your screen. Now you have to drag your thumb from the top right section of the screen all the way to the bottom middle section of the screen. Now, an alternative scenario. You click on top right section of the screen and your next button or next option is right there. So which one do you prefer as a user? The one where your existing cursor or thumb's position is closer to the next target area, right? Okay, so now let's club the size and the distance, and this makes our Fitts law. Now let's go over the definition one more time, and I'm sure this time you have completely understood the law. The movement time to a target depends on the size of the target and the distance to the target. So now you know if you make bigger target areas and closer to where your user is expecting it to be, they can click on your buttons faster and they can go throughout your user journey in a much faster manner. So the pro tip here is, whenever you are designing an interface, make sure it is at least 44 by 44 pixels in size so that even a person with a fat thumb can click on it. And that brings me to the last law, which is the goal gradient effect. It states that the closer the user is to reaching their end goal, the more motivated they will be in completing the journey. Do you think you have seen this law somewhere? I'm sure it is applied to all the games and today in a lot of great digital products. Now, let's say if I give you a difficult game to solve and this has about 5 stages, and in one scenario you are on the 3rd stage of the game, you're more likely to complete the game and go to the 5th stage because half of the battle is already won. Whereas if you're on the 4th stage, chances are high that you might feel that it's very difficult, and that is the reason why you have so many milestones even in your games today. So make sure to leverage it and use it in your next product design experience. So remember, chunk your information so the user can recall it more easily. Reduce the number of information shared so it's easier to make the decisions. Leverage what the industry is already doing and don't reinvent the wheel unnecessarily. Use big target areas and closer to where your user is expecting them to be. And lastly, make sure you keep them motivated by showing that progress bar. Make them feel they're getting closer to the goal, and they will definitely achieve that goal that you want them to achieve. I hope you enjoyed the video. Do let me know your favorite one in the comments below. See you in the next one.